Okay, so this is dried overnight, so let's have a look. So let's get going. Move that out of the way. Okay, so now we have the base with the strengthener glued on. Now then, this is the next glue job. So they'll fit in nicely like that. Finally we'll have the top on the top. But before I do that, I need to just sort out how I'm going to tackle the electronics on this, and also I need to cut a sound hole. Anyway, so I'm going to put that to one side. But I would like to get this all glued up, I think. So that's going to be my next job. Now I think I'm going to do this glue up in two sections because it's a bit of a fiddle. It's a funny shape to sort of glue up. So first off, I'm going to do this side, and I need to press it down quite hard there because it just sticks up a bit. I don't know whether the bottom's bowed or this bit here is bowed, but I definitely need to squeeze that down. Okay, so let's get some glue on this. Some glue there. Let's get that spread round a bit. It's getting in a mess already. Be on the safe side. I don't want it to be stuck all over the wood there. Right. It's really useful paper. This is what we had given when we when we moved home. It was the packing paper, but it's really good for this. I think that's okay. I've covered it. Here we go. It doesn't help that the bottom of the guitar is obviously not flat, it's slightly curved. And so it's all going to move when I clamp it. I think that's enough pressure. It's squeezing out, the glue's squeezing out, so that looks alright. Okay, that was another interesting glue up, so I'm going to put this one to one side and leave it for a couple of hours to dry off. I'm going to cut these bolts to the right length now. If you remember, these are going to go and be screwed into these nuts and go through into the wood, which will sort of grip it a little bit tighter, and this will give me an adjustment up and down for the string height. Now then, when I'm cutting through bolts, I always put a couple of nuts, or at least one nut, on at the other side of the cut so that I can unscrew it and fix any problem with the thread. Now I've just found that if I put two nuts on here, place the saw next to that one, then that's about the right length for this cut. I've also put a bit of oil on this saw, so hopefully it should be okay. Well, that's the first one done. Just got to do 5 more. Well, it looks very pretty. Whether I can make it functional or not is another matter. But yeah, I like the look of this. Right, just need to press that down hard to cut into the wood underneath. And there we have it. And there's the they're not coming through at the end there, so that's great. Yeah, that looks good. Now I'm sort of in the same position that Chris Hatton at King Bespoke Creations was in the other day, and that is I really want to start putting the frets in the neck, but before I do that I need to be able to route out the neck socket and shape the end of this neck so that it fits into that, because I bolt my necks in and then put like a dovetail. I can't do that until I've glued this all together on the body, and the body's being glued at the moment, so that's something that I'm going to have to wait, I think. But what I can do is I can just open up all these fret slots a little bit. Yesterday I painted some gloss on here, 2-part epoxy, and it's gone into all the fret slots, so I need to clean those out. So I think that's what I'm going to do now while I'm waiting for the rest to dry. I always forget it's no good putting a neck that's been shaped into a vise, because it tapers down and the vise won't hold it. So I need to use my neck clamp here. This will hold it nice and tight. And if I just clamp that down. I was watching Ben Crow's latest build the other day, and he was cutting some frets, and he was saying he doesn't like this depth guide, and he prefers to use masking tape. I'm not sure why that is. Perhaps I'll find out now, but I've always used the depth guide and I've always found it quite helpful. Also find it very helpful to put some wax on the blade. Well, on a positive note, the 2-part epoxy gloss is very hard. The bad news is it's filled up the slot completely. That looks reasonable. Okay, these are going to be a little bit more fiddly because I've got to cut through the inlay. So I've been going along merrily cutting the slots with this saw until I get to the last few at the dusty end here, and I'm looking at it and thinking there's one there that's wider than all the others. Why is that? It's supposed to be getting narrower, and all of a sudden one gets wider. It's a problem with my fret cutting jig. So when I came back and looked at my template here, I noticed that fret 13, 19 and 20, the holes were not centered. So in trying to think how to tackle this, I thought, well, if I drill the holes out a little bit wider and put a bit of material in there, I can then re-drill the holes. I've then gone and had a cup of tea and had a think about this, and I've now found this piece of aluminium rod. So what I'm going to do is find out what the diameter of that is, drill the hole out and put this piece of rod in there, and then try and drill it in the right place. Now, to be honest with you, for this guitar it probably doesn't matter, it's not that far off, but it's a good job I've spotted it, because if I was doing one of my other guitars, you know, let's call it a proper guitar, then I really would be worried about this. But hopefully I can fix it now. Okay. Okay, so all I need to do now is re-drill those holes. Okay, they certainly look a lot better than they did. To check that I've got all the slots in the right place now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to put my template into the jig and cut some slots, so I can then check the slots on here, and also it'll give me slots on here which will be quite useful. Okay, so I'm just going to glue this masking tape and super glue. That was an interesting diversion. Anyway, the upshot of it all is that I've now got a template with all the frets marked out in the right positions. I've double checked those. I've also actually put the dots in as well. What I've got to do, because I've just sanded off the centre line, is put the centre line back on, which I will do. But otherwise, I think that was quite successful. It's worthwhile spending a bit of time getting these jigs working right. Just marked out where I want the holes for the machine head, so I'm going to drill those now. It's actually gone through the bark, so I hope that's going to hold up, but we'll see. Okay, well, it's been another interesting day, and I think I'm going to pack in now, clear up the workshop, and come back to it tomorrow when hopefully the glue will have dried on the one half of the body that I stuck a bit earlier, and I can get the other half stuck. Well, what a beautiful sunset tonight, and the mist is just settling on the field. Well, good morning. It's a bit of a damp day today. Anyway, I stuck the other side of the body off camera. I didn't want to just go through all of that with you because it's just a repeat of the other side. Anyway, so that's looking really good. That's looking excellent, in fact, from my perspective. And I've got the top ready to stick on, but before I can stick the top on, I've got to cut a sound hole. I know, cutting a hole sounds a bit boring, but I just want to say with this project, you know, if you're going to push the boat out, you might as well give it an extra shove. And the project may flounder on the rocks of disappointment, but on the other hand, they may sail off to something very new. I've got an idea, but I need to make a jig. So that's what I'm going to do now. Not sure what he's on about there. Anyway, making this jig, what I need is some plywood for a base, some plywood to cut a circle, and it needs to be thicker than the thickness of the top of the body of my guitar, and a piece of wood, something like this. Also need a compass, some bolts with wing nuts on the top, and some screws. But before I start there, what I first need to do, I need to know how big my sound hole is going to be. When in doubt, make a cardboard template. So there we go. That's what I've got planned, and I think that's going to look quite nice. Just extends it a little bit wider than the strings. Yeah, I think that's going to be okay. Okay, so I've got my size. Now, for reasons which I hope will become apparent fairly soon, I need to draw another circle inside this 6 millimeters smaller on the radius. So I'll just mark that there, and I'll just whip round there on the inside. So I'm now going to cut this template down to that size. Okay. Now I need to cut that out of this piece of wood. You may ask why I'm not just using the compass, but compass isn't marking it very solidly. To be honest, without a lathe I'm not going to get that any better than that, so that's as round as that's going to be. Now then, I need to cut a chunk out of the middle of this, so I'm just marking it 5mm either side of the centre line, and I shall draw a line through those. Now I also need to cut out two half circles here. I actually want this part, I don't want the circle, I want the hole if you like, but I'm going to cut this in half first and then cut out those two shapes. Okay, so what I want to do, I want to fix this bottom segment onto the base. Then I'm going to cut a slot in there to allow this to move up and down. In fact, it's just got to go down. I want to be able to narrow the circle, and then this is going to have a slot underneath it to allow that to move up and down. Actually, I can make my life a lot easier just by simply screwing that down, and then when I need to release the binding I'm making, just unscrew it. That sounds sensible. That's a slight change in plan. I didn't need to cut out the middle, but there you go. Okay, I think we have it. Put that through there. That goes onto there with a washer. So that will move up and down and can be clamped in place. Now then, in the last video I mentioned that I'd found this piece of aluminium, and this is taken from a sheet that was behind a solid fuel cooker that we had. And I noticed that when I was sawing this, I'd sawed a piece off of something else, you get a lot of facets in from the saw, and it's quite well, blingy, if that's the word. And I thought that would be really good to put around the sound hole as sort of perfing. Now then, I've also got these two bits of wood here. This is cherry and this is sapele. And what I'm hoping to be able to do is to sandwich this aluminium between the two, and then to bend the whole lot round this jig I've made. And I've got a heat machine to help me bend the wood, and glue it all up so that I can use that then as I say, the perfing around the sound hole, and it will also help to strengthen the sound hole as well. In actual fact, I'm just thinking perhaps I should go for something that's a bit more contrasty. Got a piece of this Santos rosewood. It's not very deep, unfortunately, but that was mounted. Oh, it looks quite smart. Just not sure how I would use it. Okay, I found this fretboard which was just wide enough to allow me to cut a strip from it and still keep it wide enough just for a fretboard. So that was a bit of success. Right. Okay, so now I'm going to do another attempt at something that I've not done before, and that is to bend these two pieces of wood and this piece of aluminium round this template using this homemade wood bending thing, which is made from an old soldering iron with a bit of tubing screwed on the end. Well, there's only one way to find out if this works, and that's to give it a go. So I'll put that into there, plug it in, turn it on, let that warm up a bit. So my plan is to sandwich the aluminium between these two pieces of wood, and I'm going to have the dark wood on the inside of the hole and the light on the outside, with the aluminium in the middle. Okay, question is, can I wrap all of that together, glue it so it all holds in some sort of order? That's the challenge. Oops. Oh, got a split there. Okay, the actual joint bit doesn't really matter because I'm going to cover that over. So the question is, can I just get it round enough? I think I'm going to have to use a piece at the end there to lock it in. Now I did cut two pieces. I think I'm going to have to glue this with epoxy, so before I do anything else I'm going to take those all off there and I'll wax it all round on the base to try and avoid the glue sticking to it. I think I'll probably put some paper down as well, actually, thinking about it, perhaps. Okay, and yet another glue up, so this should be interesting. There we have it. What we can do now is let that dry and see what happens. I want to have a look at this hinge tail piece. I want this screw hole to be where the strap goes. So that sort of is going to be around there. Not quite sure the best way to do this. Let's see if I can just apply a bit of pressure to start it off. There we are, that's it, that's done that. Yeah, I think that looks okay. Somebody pointed out the other day on the comments that actually the strings should be wider at this point than they are at the bridge, and I've done them the same. So the string's going to have to be pulled back. I hope the slots in these screws will allow me to do that. Okay, so I've got quite a bit done again. So I think I'm going to call it a day for this video. So thank you once again for watching, and don't forget that this is part of the Use What You've Got challenge, and there are a lot of other builders building guitars as part of this challenge, so please check out the links below in the description for their channels. I've got still quite a bit to do on this guitar, but it's coming together, and well, I look forward to seeing you next time. Cheers.